As the clock struck midnight on a crisp autumn night, a sense of urgency spread across the eastern seaboard and the Gulf Coast of the United States. The International Longshoremen's Association, with over 25,000 members, had taken the unprecedented step of going on strike, crippling 36 container ports and bringing international trade to a standstill. The economic stakes were staggering, with some experts warning that the stoppage could cost the American economy a whopping $4.5 billion per day. The ripple effects would be felt far and wide, reigniting inflation and sending shockwaves through global markets. As the strike's impact began to unfold, concerns mounted that the already fragile global supply chain would be severely strained, with goods piling up at ports and manufacturers scrambling to find alternative routes. The consequences of this labor dispute were far from trivial, with the livelihoods of thousands of workers, businesses, and communities hanging precariously in the balance. As the standoff between the ILA and port operators continued, the world held its breath, anxiously awaiting a resolution to this potentially devastating crisis. As the International Longshoremen's Association's 25,000 members walked off the job last October, the economic implications were far-reaching and alarming. With 36 container ports on the east and Gulf coasts of the U.S. grinding to a halt, the nation's international trade came to a near standstill, and fears mounted that the strike could have a devastating impact on the American economy. Predictions suggested that the stoppage could cost as much as $4.5 billion a day, a staggering figure that would not only exacerbate inflation concerns, but also send shockwaves throughout the entire economic system. With these ports handling a quarter of the country's international trade, the strike's ripple effects would be felt across industries and borders, potentially disrupting global supply chains and causing widespread economic chaos. As the world watched anxiously, the consequences of this prolonged labor dispute were becoming increasingly clear, a potentially crippling blow to the U.S. economy, with far-reaching consequences that would be felt for months to come. As the clock struck 01:45 p.m. IST on January 8, 2025, a sense of unease settled over the American trade landscape. The reason was a labor dispute that had been simmering since October, when approximately 25,000 members of the International Longshoremen's Association walked off the job, effectively shutting down a staggering 36 container ports along the east and Gulf coasts. The repercussions were dire, with some experts warning that the stoppage could cost the U.S. economy a staggering $4.5 billion per day, potentially rekindling inflation and sending shockwaves throughout the entire nation. This unprecedented crisis, fueled by the ILA's demands for better working conditions and fair compensation, threatened to upend the country's international trade, leaving businesses and consumers alike on edge as the stakes grew higher by the minute.